and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am really excited for this conversation today because I feel like Dr. Jamie is just a wealth of knowledge on everything, really, when it comes to the body and nutrition. And I think as moms, it's really important for us to focus on stewarding that, because when we are stewarding our body and we're stewarding what we put in it and how we move it, then it also affects our mind and our emotions and even our spiritual life a little bit. And because we're just integrated beings, so we're just going to kind of jump into a few things that might be surprising that you might not know about health and wellness, and just kind of get into maybe some nuances and some ideas and some first steps that you can start taking steps towards your health so that you can be more functional in your everyday life and in motherhood. Because at the end of the day, it is a job and it is hard work, and our body has to be supported in order to accomplish this hard work. So we will be diving in as soon as we talk about one of my favorite brands, and that is Blessed Is She. I kid you not, I use their planner 24/7. Their liturgical planner is my favorite thing ever. And it has everything. It has to-do lists, it has grocery lists, it has places where you can put what you're grateful for and how you're praying, and it has day-by-day breakdowns. And they are probably getting ready to release their 2025 version. I'm already using their academic planner, and you can hop over to the link in the description to shop with them and get 15% off with code JillianNoel15. That's JILLIAN NOEL15, and you can just click the link in description to check out their planners and all of their other liturgical living stuff. It is so cute and so fun, and I absolutely love it. So with that, let's pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we just thank you and we praise you for all of the gifts that you have given us, that you have given us each an individual calling, and that we can come together in community to help one another grow and transform and live more like you're calling us to live. Help us today to really speak your words to these moms, to encourage them on their journey in health and wellness, to help them grow to love their bodies and understand them in a way they haven't before. And Lord, I ask that you highlight one thing to each person listening that they can take away, so that they can come to a greater understanding of your great plan for their body and their mind and their soul. But I just ask that you pour out blessings upon everybody here, everyone listening, upon me and Dr. Jamie, and give us more, Lord, as always, through the intercession of the most beautiful Blessed Mother. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. I'm Jillian Noel, and this is the Encouraged Momcast. So Dr. Jamie is a chiropractic and functional wellness practitioner rooted in a legacy of healing from her grandfather, Dr. Philip Arnold, and her grandmother, a healer of her time. This heritage drives her commitment to holistic health. After personal struggles with illness and fatigue, she dedicated herself to understanding true wellness. In her practice, she prioritizes listening and empowering patients with knowledge to achieve their health goals. Beyond chiropractic, she's a devoted wife, mother, grandmother, reader, traveler, outdoor girl, catechist for Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, and a lifelong learner. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jill.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because I feel like even in seeing you for my own journey, we've had a lot of really fun conversations, and I've learned so much just about the nature of my body. And so what are all the people you see, of all the moms you see, what are some of the most surprising things that they don't know about their health?
Well, I've thought a lot about this because there's lots of different things, but I think the most surprising is I'll have a mom say, well, I ate this and then I felt really terrible, but it couldn't have been the food that I ate. Like, no, it probably definitely was that thing you ate. Or like, well, I didn't mark this on your survey because, it was from some other reason, because I just had a baby. I'm like, no, that's not normal. That's common, but it's not normal. So the cause and effect, I guess, would be something that moms either, or most people in general, just don't put that cause and effect together. Like, I did this, this happened, but they think they're not related. So one of my big listening jobs is for listening for those cause and effects and not letting them excuse it away. Um, but no, and then convince them that no, that did play a part. It was either 100% of the reason or a percentage that we don't know, but it was definitely part of the problem you're experiencing.
Interesting. Do you think that maybe a lot of people's response to that, especially moms, is that it feels maybe overwhelming to have to deal with that cause? Like, it's almost harder to say, okay, it probably was the food I ate, but if it was the food I ate, that means I have to change what I do in order to see a solution.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the things that I have to, like, I'm watching for and really trying to break things down into baby steps for people, because it can be overwhelming. And I definitely don't point out on that first visit everything I see that they're causing their own problems. But trying to pick the biggest one that's going to make the biggest impact on them to so they can start feeling better quickly. But baby steps, you can pick one thing that can make a huge difference. And we all struggle with so much mom guilt, and it's not about the mom guilt. It's about you're not happy, you're not thriving, you don't feel well. But let's look at the situation and find one small change to help you meet your goals. Not about guilt. You only can do what you know. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information so that you can know one more thing. And sometimes it's a conversation like, okay, let's talk about, I see these three things. Which one do you think are able to start with? Because I don't want to overwhelm. I don't want to set people up for failure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe that probably also has to do with personality. You probably also, I know that I'm probably, and you have to be like, okay, just work on one thing. Don't completely uproot your entire life and
Right.
change it in a second, because that would probably be pretty hard on your body as well.
It's funny because it's like the both ends of the spectrum have to be helped the same way. Some people, it's like, I can't do anything. No, you can do one thing. And then people on the other end only do one thing.
Those darn unique personalities.
It's a lot. It makes it fun.
I'm sure that does like give you good variety though, because then you're not like you do the same things in the same order every day. You really get a chance to analyze and see and experience like Lord and what he's given that person each time. And I think it's really interesting too. Do you feel like most of the time, because I know you do muscle testing to kind of see what supplements are going to respond well to your system or not. Do you feel like when people choose what they want to work on first, it all seems to innately know that their body needs to do that and it kind of lines up with what you see? Or do you feel like it's kind of random?
Well, it really, like, the more I've noticed, the more in touch with God, the more they're working on their spiritual life, the more they will intuitively know what their body needs. People who are very far from God, they have no idea. It's like sometimes I wonder, are you even living in your body? Because I can plainly see that this is not working. When I'm like, oh no, that's fine. Oh no, that's not fine. This is not working. But so it's a vast variety, and that's part. I mean, I love problem solving and I love getting to know my patients, but that's part of it, is that seeing where they are in their journey and helping them take that one step forward. And again, people who have really delved into their relationship with the Lord and take that seriously, they often intuitively are headed the right direction. They just need a little tweaking.
That's so interesting, which leads perfectly into my second question, which is how do you think stewarding the body impacts the spiritual life? Like, do you see it go the other way too? That they're drawn closer to the Lord through healing their body first?
Yeah, there's a great quote. I think it was Fulton Sheen who talked about how the Lord performed miracles. So something about how by freeing their bodies from illness and disease, they were free to work out their salvation. When your body is sick, you can't think clearly. You can't hear the Lord. You can't, make a good next right decision. And something I tell my priest patients all the time, it's like, be a good steward of your health. If you it's a gift from God. And if you're not taking care of that, first of all, you're not having gratitude for the gift, but then you're also not able to serve him in the capacity that you're called.
I love that. That's beautiful. Like, just the fact that he made us so integrated, and it is difficult to go the other direction. Like, I'm starting to really see all of this as a spectrum, so to speak, of like body integrates upward to the spirit and the spirit integrates down to the body, and the mental and the emotions are mixed in there as well, and it all flows into one another. And so if you're stewarding your body, your mind is probably clearer and your emotions are probably easier to like navigate and take control of, and therefore your spiritual life it's clearer. Like, hear a resonating voice of the Lord if your mind is clear and your emotions are taken care of and your hormones are balanced, as opposed to like being struggling through exhaustion and fatigue or constant ups and downs in all different seasons. Do you think there's a trend with moms as far as like what system is most affected? Like, are most of us struggling hormonally, or like a specific system that you think is impacted by motherhood more than others?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for women in general, but moms specifically, that hormonal roller coaster that a lot of women experience. The fact that your hormones go up and down is normal physiology. The fact that it feels like a roller coaster is common but not healthy. You shouldn't feel like a roller coaster while the hormones are doing those things. And that alternating season between childbirth and nursing and then resting the body and starting over again can really take its toll. And it's not that those things are causing the problem. The problem lies in that our food is not good quality like it used to be. So we can't get the nutrients as easily to run those systems. And then just our world is so much more toxic and more stressful than what it used to be. So all of that is really probably, the two populations that it's the most hard on are moms of childbearing age and then the elderly. Those are the two populations that really need protection and help.
I could totally see that, because I think those systems are probably most, I guess, volatile in a way. Like, they're most easily affected by outside influences. Children are really resilient, and men tend to be really resilient. It's so intentional that God made it that way, that we recognize that we need to come together in community and care for one another and to grow together and to help each other on that physical level, because we are constantly experiencing different things as moms in different seasons, and it's harder to go about getting the right nutrition, or a lot of obstacles to it. And I know that the book Atomic Habits talks about, if you want to make something a habit, you got to make it attractive. You have to make it easy. And it's not easy to grow your own garden, and it's not necessarily easy to go out and find great produce or grass-fed beef or like good things for your body, or it's not easy always to keep a sourdough starter or to find really good grains. So do you have any tips or thoughts on where moms could start that would be, or good resources that they can find?
I would say maybe an easy place for moms to start would be apple cider vinegar, raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar in water with a little honey or a little lemon or whatever, at the end of meals. Even just picking one meal, starting for mom, and even if the kids tend to like that. So that would be a very simple thing. You can add one thing. It doesn't take a lot of time. You can buy the vinegar. That might be a place to start, because that apple cider vinegar is an old health remedy. I've been rereading this book, and it's available. That might be a good resource. It's called Vermont Folk Medicine by D.C. Jarvis. And I'd read it 20 years ago, and I picked it up because I was going to be speaking to a group of actually mostly elderly women. I'm like, oh yeah, some of these will remember that, but he's really funny. So he was an MD, and he was like observing. So Vermont, I guess I've never been, but he says the weather fluctuates drastically. It sounds like it's more wild than Kansas. But but that's hard on your health. So he was observing what helped people stay healthy, what didn't, what made the animals healthy, what didn't. And his cure for everything is apple cider vinegar. Give that to the animals, give it to the people, give it to everybody. And it seemed to make things better. It normalized body pH. It, helps people not get sick. So that's something that's like a very easy start that moms could start doing. And if you don't struggle with mom guilt, something you could do is start reading the ingredients on stuff you buy and seeing what you're actually eating. Now, if that's going to like ramp your mom anxiety way up, don't start there. But there's a lot of junk in products you think are just normal or fine. And when you're reading a label, if you can't pronounce it and don't know what it is without Googling it, it's probably not food in what you're eating.
That new apple cider vinegar was versatile, and I like to put it in lots of different things, but I'm gonna try that because like the Kansas weather is volatile. I really can't imagine Vermont being any worse than Kansas, and I'm totally biased. So, but either way, like the congestion is crazy. The ragweed is high. They're harvesting corn. Like there's all this stuff going on, and it's totally like it's hitting my family. And even just something as simple as that is, and it's not bad when you dilute it with water and add honey. I actually think it's pretty tasty. But that is a really easy step to take. And I think that just gathering data, even from reading your food labels, will ignite something, because they advertise now they have Cheerios with veggies in them.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. And I was like, okay. And I read it, and you put spinach powder in here, but you also covered it in sweeteners and sugar. And so I don't know that you're going to get any valuable phytonutrients from the spinach tucked in a purple Cheerio.
Yeah. That's cereal is one of my pet peeves. And I tell patients all the time, it's like you would get more nutrition from eating the cardboard box than you would get from eating the cereal. It's just, oh my gosh, it's such a waste of resources, frankly, because you're getting no nutrients from it. But yeah, I was in the store a couple months ago and I walked by this end of this cooler and it said plant-based chicken nuggets. And I did a double take. I'm like, what does that even mean? How can you, if you want chicken, have chicken. If you want plant-based, have a vegetable. Why are we trying to, make something
that it's not?
That doesn't, right. God made chicken to be chicken and vegetables to be vegetables. Let's not confuse the two.
That seems very complex. Like that seems too hard.
It's like making it harder than it needs to be.
Exactly. And even if you choose to not eat meats, you probably aren't really wanting chicken nuggets in the first place. I guess unless you're a toddler, they don't care. I don't really know the difference between.
I know. It's like, if you're going to be a vegetarian, be a vegetarian. Don't eat plant-based chicken nuggets. Just eat the vegetables. Claim it.
Then it's a whole real food, whether it's raw or it's cooked, and there's at least some integrity to the plant, as opposed to trying to, shred it up or powder it or make it to the consistency of a chicken nugget. But I'm sure they're just trying to market in the gaps.
Right. And there was a movie from the 80s, and one of the characters was saying, well, I don't like raisins because they're just humiliated grapes. And I'm like, yeah, plant-based chicken nuggets is an insult to vegetables and chicken at the same time.
That's hilarious. They're just humiliated grapes. It sounds like a plant-based chicken nugget then is a humiliated chicken nugget.
I guess so.
And whatever veggies they're trying to put in it.
Yeah.
That's, oh my goodness. It's so silly. But I think we give maybe a little too much credit to the marketing that we see. And I say this as somebody who has a marketing degree. Like, I just learned that the definition for a free-range chicken is 1 square feet of space per chicken. That's not super free if you ask me.
Oh, and it's definitely not a range.
No, it's definitely not a range. Or all natural cheese puffs. I've never seen a cheese puff tree. I've never seen it grow on a bush. And it's Like, but it's so convincing to see those things and think, oh, well, this is natural cheese that they put on this popped corn puff. So therefore it is natural.
It's like in a former life, it was cheese. It was that far removed.
Yeah. Well, when it's been essentially like you think about the whole process to make cheese, which in itself is a challenge, and then you have to dehydrate it and then
Yes.
make it last because it's not a shelf life food. Yeah, that would be. I think we've just taken so many leaps to try to circle the wagons back. And
Mm-hmm.
it's easy when you're a mom and you're overwhelmed and you're stressed already to walk into the store and see keywords like that. Like, this is all natural, or this is low sodium, or this is whatever. They've made all those keywords up, and to go, oh, well, this is better than, I don't know, off brand cheese balls instead
Right.
of getting the all natural cheese corn puffs. But
Mm-hmm.
it's also really easy to open a can of corn and,
Right.
just put that on your toddler's plate or something.
Right.
I think that there might be simpler ways that we could go about saving money and saving resources, but also getting higher quality nutrition in our bodies. They're probably the worst buzzwords that you could avoid. Like maybe your top three, you go into the store and you see these things and you're like, I'm immediately going the other way.
Oh, yeah. Fat free. Fat free is a big one. First of all, I mean, there's this, gosh, this is probably 12, 15 years ago. There was this big spread, National Geographic, about how cholesterol is not the problem. So if National Geographic, as liberal as they are acknowledging this, it's a big deal. But if anything that says fat free, to make it taste decent, they have put so much sugar in there, which is ridiculous. So fat, don't be afraid of fat. Fat is good for you. God made it, and your body needs it. So if it says fat free, that's a hard no. Walking away from that. Um, you touched on one, Jill, that all natural. And I have mom say, well, it said it was all natural. And I said, you know what your dog does in your yard? That's also all natural. And I don't think you want to eat that. So all natural means absolutely nothing as far as on packaging. There's no definition for it. So that one's a tough one. Let me think of a third one. Oh, low sodium. Low sodium. Sodium is not the enemy either. Now, what's bad for you in those foods that's called low sodium is that it's so highly processed anyways that it's very far removed from food, and it's not the sodium that's the problem.
Interesting. I would have never guessed that fat free implicated like sugar. And I did notice I started for a while just like trying to make sure I wasn't like eating a ton of carbs and no fats, or eating not enough protein and lots of fats and no, like I was trying to make sure that I was getting all of those macronutrients. And I know to make my eggs in butter with a little bit of cheese in them and a little bit of milk and seasoning, and that fills me up and I feel great usually, and I'll eat it with salsa or whatever. And the next day I was like, okay, that's got a lot of fats in it, so to speak, ratio wise, with all of those components. I was like, try and take the milk out, the cheese out, and make it with spinach instead. And when I tried that, like energy just tanked. And like this is the moment I realized how much my body, especially at the beginning of the day, thrives on having a good blend with enough fats to help me, I guess, burn through that energy. Is there is there a science behind the the fats and the carbohydrates and the protein kind of working together? Because I know a lot of moms probably fall into the whole, I need to go low carb, or I need to go low fat, or we're always toying with different ratios.
Right. Yeah. So when I in my office, when I talk about a carb, I'm talking about the carbs that God made, which means vegetables. Vegetables are a carb, and we need those. What most people like low carb diets are avoiding the refined carbs that man has messed up, which that's a good thing to do. Those don't provide a lot of nutrients. But to provide the body of energy, getting the energy into your body is like building a campfire. So, you start with maybe some newspaper, and then you put some small kindling on there. And then once your fire's going, you can add bigger sticks and bigger sticks. So our energy metabolism runs the same way. So the paper is the carbs, the vegetable. And if you want, so like the refined carbs would be like starting your fire with styrofoam because it just burns up so quickly. And you can actually get energy crashes from those refined carbs. Whereas the vegetables kind of start your energy slow. So that would be the newspaper. Then the kindling would be, the other, like the fiber in the vegetables is more like the kindling. And then when you can get your metabolism fire up where it can handle big logs, long burning, slow, steady heat, that's going to be your proteins and your fats.
Mm. I think it's interesting because I've heard a lot about like carbohydrate crashes, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had those in my life. And I never associated that like vegetables probably wouldn't do that to you, but any sort of refined carbohydrate would, probably because they're also higher in sugar and you have
Right.
sugar crashes.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yeah, and the thing about those refined carbohydrates, as soon as they hit your saliva, they convert to sugar
that fast?
that fast.
Wow. That's
So
wild.
that, yeah, so it is. I mean, really, a sugar crash and a refined carb crash, it's the same thing.
Interesting. Wow. I learn something new every day,
Don't
including
we
this.
all?
We are so integrated and there's like all these nuances. And obviously, I think a great piece for moms in this is discernment because, like you said, they have to pick somewhere to start. It's going to be overwhelming for them to take on everything at once, whether they want to or not. And the spiritual life, I think, is an important component of this because a good place to go when you're like, I'm really struggling to keep up with my kids, my energy is tanking, I'm trying to like band aid it with caffeine or, more food or whatever it is. Um, like it would be most ideal for us to say, okay, God, this is happening. Where do I need to go? Where do I need to go first? Do I need more protein? Do I need more fats? Do I need to just take a walk every day or get outside? Are you struggling enough that you do need to go see a practitioner who can help you start somewhere? Or are you just so overwhelmed that you need to go and get some advice on where to start, which can be incredibly helpful because it's overstimulating. Since it's all very integrated, one of the biggest ways you see God's design for moms in your practice.
Yeah, I mean, motherhood is an exhausting sport. And part of that, I mean, God did not choose for us to be, oh gosh, what's the right word? You know, feel defeated and make it like it's an impossible task. He's got resources for us, but we have to ask for them, seek them, and look for them. But a woman's body, a mother's abilities are so amazing. I mean, you the master CEOs of the big companies in the world don't rival the ability of a mom to take care of her kids and nurture them and do all of those things. But it's just a matter of, you know, tapping into those resources that God has provided, or, asking for them, finding them, seeking help to get them to help you to do your job. But it's there. God doesn't just abandon us, in the depths of motherhood or the depths of being overwhelmed. There's resources available, and we have to ask him to see them, and then ask our neighbor for help. We're made to be in community, but and we've lost that community in society. Moms used to gather together, go to the creek. They would all wash things, laundry day. Everybody would help watch each other's kids. There would be conversation. There would be, community. And now we each have our own washer and dryer in our own house. So we're isolated and we don't get that encouragement or sharing of ideas, helping. We don't get that help to raise our kids. And that's something that, as many blessings as technology has brought us, that's one of the downsides.
I would agree completely that like the sense of community is very much shattered. And I've even noticed a huge trend that we're afraid to ask for help. Society has convinced us that we have to do it all on our own, which might also be why this integration of the spiritual and the body and like cause and effect, these things can be so overwhelming because we're trying to do it all on our own, and we think eventually has to give. Our capacity is only so much, and even then God is calling us to specific focuses in our lives. And we're called to steward the body and do what we can to support what it's doing in this life, because not only is it supporting us, it's supporting our children. I think one of the craziest experiences for me was coming to this when my body totally reset itself in pregnancy, and I finally recognized like how impactful each choice I made in pregnancy would be. Like what I was eating, my baby was eating. What I was doing was impacting this child in my womb. And even when both of them were born, like how I ate, like they experienced some sort of familiarity in the breast milk that I fed them. And then when we got to the table, they had to see me eat these foods. There's no way I could see a child, because I wouldn't do it if I sat there and I had veggies on my plate and my mom was eating something totally different. I wouldn't want what I had either. So I realized just how important stewarding my body was, because it wasn't just about my body anymore. I was no longer living for myself, but for someone else. And obviously, the benefits for me have been awesome. And I've been able to keep up with them better. And I'm in a much better headspace because I've been intentional about that. But I also think that spiritually and physically, it's important that we're sharing these with our kids, because it's not just about our health and wellness. How we teach them and work with them and encourage them is going to impact them in the future, which is why I like that you said with the apple cider vinegar thing, your kids might love it too. I think that we can get hesitant to like give our kids perceived weird things. Like people would be like, apple cider vinegar is weird. Like maybe you put that on a salad,
Right.
but you don't just like eat it. And so I think that the habits part of this, where you're sharing it with your kids, is also important. Like it's just about you, it's about them and stewarding their bodies. Um, do you think that like any of the struggles that we see with our kids kind of stem from this? That like there's an unawareness of how stewarding the body is a community experience overall?
Yeah, I mean, I see like well, even just the whole mentality that a lot of young adults have, or teenagers, that, well, it's my body, I can do what I want. There's that lack of sense that what we do affects the community, and your first community is your family. So, kids that see mom and dad making these healthier choices and doing those things, it's not weird to them. And, just because, if mom was raised on chicken nuggets and soda, you don't you don't have to do that for your kids. You can do something different for them. And I think that most parents, they want better for their kids than what they were given. And it's not like you're shaming your parents or even yourself. It's just, I'm moving forward, and I want my kids to start in a better place than I started. And that's what's going to change the world, is just those little choices that can help kids know, oh, this is a different way. Or, oh, this was not, when they get older, oh, mom and dad, they were trying to do better than what they were raised with, because they love me and they want me to have that start in life.
Yes, which segues perfectly into my final question, which is what are some small steps moms can take to support their health and their vocation?
Yeah. So, I mean, small steps. I mean, I say that you would have to start with prayer. Ask the Lord, where should I start? Because you can be overwhelmed, and He may see something that you don't. And that small thing could be, I'm going to add a fresh vegetable with dinner, and everybody's, including my husband, we're going to take one bite. We're all going to do this together. We're going to learn to like this food, or start with one that everybody does like that you just forget to serve. And a fresh vegetable um, doesn't inhibit your time. I mean, most of the time, it's like, at most, take it out of your fridge, rinse it, chop it.
Yeah,
Sometimes you can recruit kids to help the chopping part, but it's not like it's going to prolong your meal prep or um, you know, break the budget. But, one fresh vegetable with dinner, if that's not part of your normal.
I like
Let's
that.
see. Some people, they're like, for them, breakfast is the easiest to kind of make sure that there is, good quality protein, because eggs, most people do pretty well with eggs. That's an easy one, but there's no rule that says you have to have breakfast food for breakfast. In our house, we have dinner leftovers for breakfast most of the time.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, my yeah, my kids are like, breakfast food. What does that even mean? That happens on the weekend that we have breakfast food for breakfast. The rest of the week it's leftovers.
I
And so
like
just
that.
so I mean, it doesn't have to take up a ton of time or energy, but just, asking the Lord, what can I do? One thing, if your one thing is adding a vegetable, getting protein with breakfast, drinking more water. That is, and if your one thing is I'm going to have when the kids go down for a nap, I'm going to drink one glass of water. That's very doable just to pick that one small thing.
Yeah, I think all of those also like create their own habit stack, which I guess is another atomic habits principle. Like nap time equals cup of water. Like you stack those together. So like it triggers you to remember that you're gonna have water. Dinner is one vegetable. I think that we've been striving, actually Ethan's family did this really well. We've been striving to do like you get like your main protein or entree or whatever, and then you get your vegetable with it. Um, I think we were doing that even if a vegetable is included in the dish itself, just like something on the side. And then once that's eaten, then we'll add the fruit. Because even
Yeah.
then, like I learned from you, I didn't realize, fruit is still has sugars in it. They're natural sugars and they have good qualities, but you can still overshoot the sugar by just eating all fruit. And so I was like, man, Ethan was like, fruit was like incentive to finish your vegetables. Like, then we might get fruit. And it wasn't necessarily offered at every meal. And I was like, huh, that is that's a good way that I can improve is by focusing more on the vegetables and being like, let's do a pepper for lunch and a carrot for dinner. And maybe for breakfast, we'll have a smoothie with greens in it or zucchini, and we'll just mix and match. And then if fruit fills the gap, we'll just aim to like have fruit at one or two meals instead of making sure there's a fruit and a vegetable on every plate every time.
Yeah.
And that's
One
been interesting.
So in my house, I've got some teenagers, and everybody cooks in my house. And when the teenagers cook, I say you've got to have a protein, and I ask for at least two vegetable sides, not counting if there's vegetables in their main protein, whatever. And I prefer one cooked and one fresh. They
Mm.
don't always hit that mark, but that's what I've told them, and it's expected. And when they miss the mark, I remind them that hey, remember the two vegetables on the side? Yeah, where was that tonight? Do it next time.
I think that um, other good steps too, at least these were little things that I started doing, like finding a higher quality bread. I'm still not to the einkorn I would like to be having, but like sourdough is better than white bread, and especially like homemade and not like a processed, or like the Ezekiel bread would probably be a better option than your generic white bread. I started getting the unsweetened plain Greek yogurt instead of any sort of flavorings or sweeteners. I think that was something else that you encouraged me to do, was to keep on that and just sweeten it with honey if necessary, or sweeten it with fruit, or
Mm-hmm.
use it as sour cream because it's higher in protein. Like there are very simple substitutes throughout the kitchen that you can make. And it's just a matter of like 1 month you don't buy the flavored yogurt and you get unsweetened instead. And you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to overhaul your pantry. But like there are some very simple swaps. Do you have any other favorites?
Oh gosh, and it's important. Like if you're used to the flavored yogurts, great, add your fruit and honey, but over the course of that month, slowly start reducing the amount of fruit and honey you're putting in because you want your palate and your kids' palate to be used to things that are not sweet.
Hmm.
It's like having, in the faith we feast and we fast, and if you're having sweet all the time, you're feasting all the time without the fasting, and then it's not special. So it's like slowly start, reducing that sweet stimulation in your mouth, and more importantly, your brain can over time lead to, kids and adults being more open to new vegetables or new foods that are not sweet. Um, Let me think. Other swaps that are easy. They have um, we could go on this total tirade about all my beefs with gluten, but we won't unless you want me to go there, Jill. But they have really there a lot of gluten-free products on the market are just expensive junk food. It doesn't add nutrients to your system. but some of them are very helpful as you're trying to transition away or lessen the gluten in your diet. Lately, like the chickpea pasta, that's made from chickpeas, beans, which are way better than the old gluten-free pastas, which were rice and weird flours and stuff. So, if that's a swap that is on one of your baby steps, that's an easy thing to do. Um, you know, Making salad dressing at home rather than buying the jarred stuff, because there's a lot of weird oils in most of the commercial salad dressings. And
Yes.
it doesn't have to be complicated, but just, you know, if a baby step would be oil and vinegar and whatever spices your family likes, whether it's parsley or basil or oregano. And I'm sure you can, if you just Googled salad dressing, olive oil, vinegar, and oregano, I'm sure you could find something that was very easy and inexpensive to make. So that would be something to kind of watch for. And even sticking to, looking for real foods. In the grocery store, stuff around the perimeter tends to be real food. Stuff up and down the aisle, it's pretty much hit or miss, mostly miss if it's actually food, or what I like to call a food-like product. It may have started as food, but it's been so processed, it doesn't count as food anymore. Um, or there's stuff on the shelves up and down the aisle that was never food, but is being marketed as food. So
Mm.
try to think about your shopping more around the perimeter rather than up and down the aisles. This trying to think other swaps. Water, drink water.
Mm.
Doesn't have to be fancy. Doesn't have to. It's kind of boring. It's not flashy, but it's super important. Just instead of reaching for juice or soda or tea, I'm gonna have a glass of water first, and then I'll see if I still want that other thing.
That's also a big money saver because water is essentially
Every
free by comparison.
right.
And the salad dressing one is actually something you like an ounce of oil and an ounce of apple cider vinegar, and then I was putting honey mustard in it for a while, but I ran out of that. So I did a little bit of mustard and a little bit of honey. And
Mhm.
like that's my favorite. And so anytime I make a salad, it's so much easier. And you also save money. And it
Mhm.
does not take you extra time to grab the oil and the vinegar out of your cabinet, mix it together, and squirt a little bit of that in, or sprinkle your spices in. But I hadn't thought about spices, so I'll try that too. And I think I said this to my sister in law or something the other day who was talking about being gluten free. And I was like, because we were talking about how expensive it is. And I was like, it is expensive. So the way to afford essentially being gluten free is by just reducing the amount of gluten foods you would be eating. So, like you said, the chickpea pasta, or just opting to have snack on carrots or snack on a salad instead of trying to get like the Oreos and the gluten free crackers and all of those things. I mean, I still get like the blue corn tortilla chips from Aldi and like snack on those, or the sweet potato chips, and those still don't necessarily have the greatest oils in them. But like if I'm gonna pick something, it's not gonna be the expensive tiny box of gluten-free crackers that is like 4 servings and $10 at this point.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's actually gluten-free as a transition could actually even be wise because you really have to make that act of the will to choose quality perimeter foods, as you said, and forfeit like the expensive processed ones a little bit more, like a little at a time. And I think it's more manageable than we realize because
Yeah.
it'll reduce your budget a little bit, it'll increase your nutritional value, and then you don't have to have so much stuff. You can just do
Right.
more things with the basic foods you already have.
And a lot of people are asking me like, well, what do I do instead? Like, I want to make spaghetti. What do I do instead of the wheat noodles? Spaghetti, a meat sauce with meat is actually really good on a variety of things. It's good on zucchini, like zoodles. It's
Yes.
good on sweet potatoes. It's good on steamed cauliflower. And so it doesn't
Ooh.
have to be. I mean, what is that? There's that. I think it's probably a little old now. That meme going around. It's like if cauliflower can be pizza, you can be anything. Um, so but putting those stuff that we used to put on bread or pasta on a vegetable is really doable. Um,
Yeah.
The texture is a little different, the taste is different, but it's way better for you. Uh, this is tangentially related, but my 18-year-old recently was at the store with somebody else. I'm like, okay, we need to get sloppy Joe mix. My son's like, okay, well, the apple cider vinegar is over there, and they're like, what are you talking about? He didn't, because we always make it from scratch. We have a recipe that calls for like mustard and spices and tomato paste. He did not know that Manwich sloppy Joe mix came already made in a packet or a can. I'm like, that is a mom win that he did not know this existed. Um, but I
That's
mean,
so great.
a lot of your favorite recipes, you can find ways to make it from scratch at home. It doesn't have to be canned. And that does take a little bit more time and effort, but only the first time you do it. Because once you've done it, you're like, oh, that's not that much. That's not
Yes.
that hard. And that maybe, once a month, I'm going to try to make this from scratch rather than buy the can of it. Once a month, pick it, it can be it can be a first Saturday tradition or sacrifice or whatever, however you want to think of it to help yourself. But, because man, I've got amazing recipes that, I used to love when I, was a teenager and was eating more junk food. And oh gosh, one of my favorites is I've got a recipe for it's cauliflower cheese sticks. I tell you,
Ooh.
they taste so much like Pizza Hut cheese sticks that I had as a teenager. So if I get a hankering for that, and if that's something that you're interested in, Jill, I can get you the link and you can share it in your show notes.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I personally just want that recipe because I that's something that has been hard to give up is cheese sticks. I don't know why I like them so much. But they're so good. But you make a good point too, because even the other night, like I really wanted chocolate, and of course your voice echoed in my head that I needed magnesium, or I
mhm,
think that's what you said because I
yeah.
was craving chocolate. And so I took a calcium magnesium tablet, and then I also like I went on a walk to see if I could find any sort of like really high, like 70-80% cocoa dark chocolate at Dollar General, and I didn't. But I came home and I was still craving it, and so I made myself raw milk hot chocolate instead, and I just used
Mhm.
honey and cocoa powder and raw milk, and I was like so glad I did not find any sort of chocolate bar because that was way better. And I noticed that like I had taken the magnesium tablet, the craving dissipated, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is fascinating, and really it was really good. I didn't drink that hot chocolate and regret it because
Right.
like in a Swiss Miss packet, it was at the back of that chocolate bar that I saw in Dollar General and saw weird things I couldn't name, and I was like, I will eat this and I will be like, really, Jill, like, and I'll be mad about it, and then I won't eat the rest of it, and it will rot in the cabinet, and I will have wasted X amount of dollars that I could have saved. And so coming home, I was like, okay, clearly I didn't need it, but I didn't feel guilty drinking the hot chocolate because it was at least better ingredients.
Right. And I'm so proud of you. I want to high five you through the medium here. Um, but yeah, so doing that, feeding your body what it's asking for, but then, finding a healthier way to get that craving fixed is there's ways to do it. I've found there's ways for almost anything that's reasonably healthy. I don't have a quick fix to for jelly beans, sorry. That's but there's many things. But you can make gelatin little oh gosh, just little gelatin chewy things that mimic that gummy bears that are good for you. And the internet is full of all kinds of recipes. And yep, I've had some on there that were complete and total flops. But so I have a collection though of ones that worked out well. But don't be afraid to try things like that. And you get that late night craving and you're looking in your fridge and like, oh, I typically try to keep these they're chocolate chips and they're stevia sweetened around. And like, okay, I want chocolate. I don't crave chocolate often because I think that like I like a little bit of chocolate like on a nut or something. Like, oh look, I have those chocolate chips. I have some almond butter in my fridge. I'm gonna add, I'm gonna kind of stir that together and yeah, that melted a little bit and oh yeah, that kind of hit the spot. That did what I need, but I didn't have a bunch of weird chemicals. I didn't have any high fructose corn syrup, which is killer to your body. Um, yeah, you don't have to live deprived to eat healthy.
I think that's actually a great like note to wrap up on, is that like I think that's a lot of our mentalities, is that we have to live deprived. But I've also noticed that like the less I buy that's processed, the more freedom I have in my kitchen, because I have the basic ingredients. Like you said, you essentially made a Reese's like
Yeah.
with chocolate and peanut butter. And personally, I think real peanut butter tastes, or real almond butter tastes way better than whatever's in a Reese's. What it's about understanding the virtue of temperance and moderation. It's understanding that, like you said, God has given us resources, whether that's someone like you who does this for a living and can help you navigate your individual needs, or if that's just, instead of grabbing the Snickers bar in the checkout line, going home and eating chocolate with almond butter. It's just understanding that like we can die to our impulses a little bit, but still fast and feast. And slowly but surely over time, our bodies will change. Because I can attest to the fact that I grew up as my sister likes to call it, a carbivore. Very little protein, lots of processed grains, very terrible diet. We didn't eat a lot of vegetables in my parents' house, lots of heavy on the starches. And now I hardly eat those things by comparison. And it was not easy. Like, I remember being 17 and trying these healthy foods that are very good for you and being like, this tastes horrible. And I have sympathy for like my sister-in-law, who on our vacation trip I made like oatmeal cookies but with applesauce and banana, and I put craisins and chocolate chips and zucchini in them. And
Nice.
I was like, these are so sweet, these are so good, and she was like, this is terrible. I was like, you'll understand, it is an acquired taste, but like going from grabbing like oh, what am I thinking of? One of those oatmeal cream pies or something, to making just like something out of natural foods. Like it's been a journey. So don't be discouraged by the fact that it might take time and it might be a slow process, but just know that God is going to honor how you're stewarding your body and you're going to see fruits from that.
Right. And you're amazed, like there's different flavors in foods that once you start working slowly away from that sweet stimulation, things taste better. Like there's more variety. There's, instead of just sweet, sweet, sweet all the time, there's more abundance that the Lord has provided for us that you notice.
Absolutely. I agree. So stay the course. Don't be discouraged. The Lord will provide. And if you need some assistance in it, you can always check out Dr. Jamie at arnoldchiroclinic.com. I'll put all of her links in the description. And this was really fun. I enjoyed this
Well,
conversation. We'll have to do it again.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Jill. Yeah, just add that on my website. There's a sign up for, I send out weekly emails with health tips, and at least a one recipe a month comes out on there. If I find something really amazing that I can't wait for, sometimes you get a bonus of more than one recipe a month. Um, but just, mostly geared towards moms, that things that you can just, read and help yourself or get an idea for that one baby step, or this new recipe. Okay, I'm going to put this on my new recipe day this month to try this. So yeah, anybody's welcome to sign up for those emails from my website.
Yes, I absolutely love your emails. I am on the email list, and you even have like good tips and tricks for like if you feel illness coming on, or just like there's other stuff too. So, and you'll find that the Lord will probably send you just the right tip at just the right time for you to take the next step. So we'll leave some fun stuff for you guys, and we'll catch you next time.
Okay, Jill, it was an honor to be here with you. Thank you.